pass over to Belinda.
Thanks, Anne. So welcome everyone, especially to those students who are with us today, and for those who are listening to the recording at a later date. Next slide, please. First of all, I guess I'll kick off with an acknowledgement of country. And for our first year students, hopefully you will become very familiar with the university's Acknowledgement of Country and the beautiful artwork that our local Aboriginal Darawal and Wandanian woman painted in terms of our flame tree. But we acknowledge that country for Aboriginal peoples is an interconnected set of ancient and sophisticated relationships. The University of Wollongong spreads across many interrelated Aboriginal countries that are bound by this sacred landscape and intimate relationship with that landscape since creation. From Sydney to the Southern Highlands to the South Coast, from freshwater to bitter water to salt, from city to urban to rural. The University of Wollongong acknowledges the custodianship of the Aboriginal peoples of this place and space that has kept alive the relationship between all living things. The university acknowledges the devastating impact of colonialisation on our campus's footprint and commit ourselves to truth-telling, healing and education. Thanks, Anne. So it is our pleasure to welcome you here this evening for our student support sessions. I'm Belinda Gibbons. I'm the Deputy Associate Dean Education for the Faculty of Business and Law. And we are very lucky this evening to have Professor Anne Rogerson with us, the Associate Dean for Education for our faculty. And we have the lovely Kassan, who's one of our students here. So but before we get started, just to let you know that this session is being recorded via WebEx and will be made available throughout the Faculty of Business and Law event page at a later date. So just make sure your microphone's muted unless you wanna ask a question. So you can either raise your hand, and given the small amount of people that we have online, just so you can turn your video on, or raise your hand and we can have a discussion about any questions that you have, or there is a Slido link if you'd like to stay anonymous, and you can pop your question in there through that link, and I'll pop that link in the chat for you actually, so that you can actually click on it, and or you can scan that QR code there. Thanks, Anne. So in terms of what to expect in this presentation, this evening is I guess one of a few support sessions that we are running for our students, and tonight I guess is all about just getting started. So one of a lot of questions we get around getting started with your assessments and some time management skills, and how university is very different to that high school learning type of environment. Anne will go through how to make the most of your studies and the difference between tutorials, lectures, seminars, what's expected of you, how to use consultation time wisely. Kassan will talk about what I wish I knew when I started, which will be really informative, and please don't hesitate to ask Kassan a question. Where do I find some help? And then I'm going to take you through Moodle and just have a bit of a chat about it, make sure you guys are really comfortable with hopping onto Moodle and where to access those resources, and if you've got any questions left at the end. So I am going to hand over to Anne. Thanks, Anne.
Thanks, Belinda. So I'm going to cover just some of the differences that may be useful to you in getting started with assignments and time management. So this particular session is the first in a series. We'll go deeper into assessment tasks in another session. We've got another session scheduled next week. But one of the things I've found, and I will be honest and say I've had 2 children go through university. Belinda's had 1 and she's got another one who's just started. And one of the things I noticed when I was a student, but also when my children were students, is getting used to how you juggle things from high school compared to university. So in high school, your schools will have organised assessments so that they tend not to clash. In university, it's a very different space because students take different combinations of subjects. Therefore, we cannot schedule everything across the university not to clash at the same time. So if you're doing a full-time study load, that's 4 subjects, which means you've got 4 subject outlines. And the place to start is making sure you have downloaded a copy of those subject outlines that you can refer to. So those subject outlines have your assessment tasks and the due dates and times. So the big thing is managing your schedule, and some of those assessment tasks will be due in the same week or may be due in the same week. So it's about how you plan those and work out a schedule. So a good idea is to get a large format calendar or a desk planner or a wall planner, so you can actually plot when your assessment tasks are due. That avoids those nasty surprises when you go to class and they remind you that an assessment's due next week, and then you find out you've got a couple due next week. But actually being able to plan ahead when they're due, you will be able to organise your time a little bit better, and it takes a little bit of the stress and anxiety off. An important point is you must attempt all assessment tasks in each subject. So it's not a question of looking and say, hey, one assessment's worth 40%, one's worth 30%, I won't worry about the other assessment tasks. Some of the course rules say that you have to attempt each assessment task for each subject. Each assessment task will have a marking criteria. So it's important to read that because you will lose marks if you don't address the criteria. And I will go through that in more detail next week. Particularly, the one I love to point out is the example here on the screen is from Management 110. The second assessment task is a report. Some people don't like writing reports and prefer to write an essay. But if you lodge an essay instead of a report format, you will lose marks. So it's really important to look at the type of assessment and the criteria. If you are unable to meet the deadline from an eligible reason, apply for academic consideration. Now, you need to apply for academic consideration before the due date and time. That being said, we do recognise if something happened on that day and you might apply a day later, but the rules say before the due date and time. But if it's an illness situation, sometimes they can be last minute. So just a reminder about academic consideration. So it's if sickness, accident or serious event prevents you completing an assessment or exam by the due date. You apply via SOLS. There is a tab there that says academic consideration, and you can apply for more than one subject at the same time. There's a page on the UAW website that goes into more detail, and the Ask UAW section can help as well. How do you get your grades back? So how do I find out how I performed in an assessment task? When you lodge your assessment task, also in the subject outline, it explains how the assessment will be returned to you. Your assessment grades, so assessment 1 and assessment 2, those grades will be available to you on SOLS by subject. The only actual task grade they don't put on SOLS is your final assessment mark, whether it's a exam or whether it's a final written assessment task or some other type of task or activity. Your overall final grade for the subject comes out in the standard release of results. And for autumn session this year, that's the 7th of July. So it's quite a way away. So you will get feedback on assessment tasks as you go through each subject, but the final overall grade for the subject, which was hopefully somewhere between a pass and a high distinction, will be actually posted at that time. But if there is a failure of a subject, that would be advised at that time as well. But if you keep the assessment tasks on track and on time and addressing the criteria, that's going to improve your chances of passing the subject. So if we look at how to make the most of my studies, One of the questions that gets asked to us is, what is the difference between a lecture and a tutorial? And now we have a range of a different sort of tutorial activities. We have tutorials, we have seminars, we have workshops. But to distinguish between the two types of content, lectures can be live streamed, it can be available via recording, and it can or may be workbook content that has video content in it. They are the big pieces of information, the theoretical background, giving you the history of a particular concept. Tutorials and workshops, by comparison, have smaller groups of students and involved activities related to lecture content. So one of the key things is, for non-live lectures, ensure you've worked through the content prior to your tutorial, seminar or workshop. That will help you get the most out of that tutorial or seminar, because you will have the conceptual information and then you will be in activities related to it. It also gives you an opportunity, as you're going through lecture content, to note questions, so that when you get to a tutorial, seminar or workshop, you're in a better position to know what sort of questions you want to ask, what isn't clear, what you'd like to develop a greater understanding on. So if anybody was at our orientation sessions, we talked about COVID, but in light of the current situation with the weather's also impacting a few of our activities. So if you are unable to attend any scheduled on-campus activities, check your Moodle site. And that is the same for tutorials, workshops and seminars. So if you have an on-campus activity, or you have a live online activity that you're enrolled in, and you're unable because of illness or some other reason to attend, you need to check with your tutor or subject coordinator in the first instance. We're recommending to students that you check your Moodle site before attending campus, because any last minute changes will be noted on the Moodle site, and that relates to, say, a room, like we had Hope Theatre is unavailable at the moment. We were able to advise you of any last minute changes. So when I get to a tutorial, seminar or workshop, what am I expected to do? And it's about participation. You might be asked to work in a group activity, to either complete an assessment in class or a discussion. There could be presentations. Your group or individuals might be required to do a presentation. There can be question activities or even quizzes, in-session quizzes. You get the most out of your activities by being involved. This helps you meet new people, but also learn about different perspectives, so that when we've moved beyond university into the workplace, we're meeting new people all the time. So some places, but it's a far safer environment because you get to know the people you're interacting with. Make sure you bring your questions along that have arisen when you've looked at your lecture content, you've reviewed it. But the main thing is being there and being involved. It's not designed to be a passive activity. We want to engage you in the activity, and that's how you get the most out of your learning. Something else that's on the front of your subject outlines is consultation time. There's a comment about consultation time. And I found when I was lecturing that this was one of the most unutilised times by students, except when it's just before when an assessment's due and everybody wants to ask questions. So your subject coordinator or your lecturer and tutor will have consultation times every week. They will note when those times are available, where it's located and how it operates. So they might be an in-person drop-in session that you can come anytime within a 2-hour window, or it might be an online video conference. And again, some of those are drop-in as well. The subject outline will note if appointments are required, and this is where you'd like to book in a time. So here's the big advantage for listening to something like this. If you are planning your assessment tasks, look at when the consultation times are close to assessment deadlines. And if appointments are required, book in advance, because that way you'll make sure you've got some time available. One of the challenges at navigating a university campus is finding out where the rooms are. And for the main campus in Wollongong, I've just put a quick explanation of how it works. So the first number is the building, and building 39 is not beside building 40. So a campus map on the UOW app is a really handy thing to have. So the first number is your building number. The next number or identifier says what floor in the building it is. So ground floors are all G and everything else is a level number. Then the last number is actually the room. So the examples I've shown there is building 40, which is the main building for business on the main campus. GO8 is the ground floor room, room 8. Whereas for our law students, 67 is the main building for that. And so building 67, or also known as McKinnon, an office on level 2 would be 210. So it's on the second floor and it's room 10. So that's just how you navigate the addresses that are on the front of the subject outline. So from here, I'm going to pass over to our lovely Kassan, who's just going to share some thoughts about what she wished she knew when she started as a student. Thanks, Kassan.
Thanks, Anne. So my name's Kassan and I studied at the University of Wollongong. I graduated in 2017. And when I started my university degree out of high school, I found it quite overwhelming to start off with initially. Like when you're in high school, I guess you're, like what Anne said earlier, your teachers really do a lot for you. They give you resources, they give you references, they really try to support you and I guess hold your hand in a way as much as they can, so that you can complete a task or an assessment or an assignment. Then when you get to university, there is that same support there, but now you're kind of a little fish in a big pond and it can become quite overwhelming at times. And so that's something I guess I wish I kind of knew when I started, but it doesn't mean that it's a scary experience or anything like that. Like my time at university and studying, I had so much fun and I enjoyed it a lot, and there were a lot of learning curves, but it's important attending sessions like this or reaching out to your peers, or if you don't feel comfortable speaking to your lecturers, to your tutors, if you have a question or if you're having a problem, they're there to help you and they want to help you and they want to see you succeed and get the most out of it. So yeah, I think it took me a good year or so to kind of settle into university life and kind of get accustomed to like Moodle and Souls and the library and how to, you know, find the correct journal articles or how to write or reference correctly. But once you kind of learn those skills, they really set a good foundation that you can carry through the rest of your degree and onwards into the workplace. So yeah, I just encourage you to, it's okay to feel overwhelmed when you're starting uni or something new, because it is totally a new environment, but it's a great experience. And yeah, just reach out if you ever need help with anything or you're unsure, just reach out and know that you're not alone and there's probably other people in the same situation as you. So yeah, that's what I'd like to pass on.
Thanks, Kassan. That's really helpful. It's really about asking questions. There's lots of information at the university, but it's a question of asking questions, which leads us on to the next topic of where do I find help? I mentioned at the orientation sessions, it's a bit like going to the beach. There's lots of people on the beach, but unless you raise your arm when you need help, the lifeguard doesn't know where you are. So it's about making contact or asking someone who will refer you on to, if they can't answer the question, who it will do. So SOLS is the main entry point for anything, for your Moodle access, changing your personal details. So it's really important if you change your address or contact details that you keep those updated. You've got your individual timetables. I mentioned about your assessment results and subject results at the end of session. The Student Central website, and that's where Ask UOW is, can help with enrolment issues, forms, fees, inquiries, but also help you make appointments with a head of students. Belinda's going to talk more about the Moodle sites to run you through the areas of that, and she's actually going to go into that live. So it will be a lot more interactive, but also meaningful, going through how the Moodle sites are structured. Your subject coordinator, lecturer or tutor is the person you ask about subject content or assessment tasks. They are the people who are actually grading or marking your work, so that's where the questions go. And the heads of students are really important members of our faculty. They can help with course and study advice, any credit for prior learning, and the appointments are made by Student Central. So our head of students, and this is a copy of the page off our University of Wollongong website. So there's a link to contact our head of students, but they can help with rearranging studies, or if you needed for a session to take a leave of absence because something came up, or there are also aspects of reduced study load. These are critical members of our team and can help you. They are just simply amazing. So the current student website of getting into SOLS, how Ask UOW, but this is also the page where there's things like key dates. And key dates will show you when subjects, when the results are going to be released, when an examination period is, what the start of session is, when the mid-session break is. That's really important information because we all look forward to mid-session break. So your key dates area is updated with year to year, but it's also got links through to other areas at the university. The Faculty of Business and Law page is a link through to all the contacts at the School of Law and School of Business, plus our 2 research centres. So these are really good hopping off points, and you obviously got there through the events page too, and that's where the recording for this particular session will be held, stored. Student services, the main contact area is Ask UOW. It does have a telephone number. And they make the appointments for our heads of students, but they also have some self-service information online you can use. Other support services, we have all of these support services. They're included in your student fees, so use them. You don't have to pay extra to use them. So they have counselling services that's available 24 hours a day. We have student support advisors. They help with real life issues when you're sort of trying to work out what's going on or what support I need. There are student advocacy services if you need advice on how to appeal a particular decision. But we also have legal services, international student program. All of these things are included in your fees, so they're there for your use, so please make use of them. So now I'm going to pass over to the lovely Belinda. I'm actually just going to exit my slide share because Belinda's going to go live into Moodle so she can actually share how it all works. Thanks, Belinda.
Anne. Thanks, Anne. Thanks, Kassan. Okay, there's no questions in the Slido and there's no questions in the chat. So please, if there's anything on your mind, please just pop it in the chat. It doesn't really matter what the question is. It may not be related to anything we're talking about. It may just be something that is on your mind. Given that it's Wednesday, so you've been at uni for 3 days now, possibly something's come up that you're just not quite sure about. Please just ask it in the chat. And so we can see if we can answer it for you. Okay, or you can even just say hello to each other in the chat. I am going to do what they say to never do, which is to run live technology when you're presenting, but we'll see how we go. Hi, Alison. Thanks for saying hello. Yeah, you guys just talk to each other in the chat, let each other know where you're calling from, what your degree is, maybe what you're studying. Possibly you're in a Bachelor of Law, or you're possibly doing a Bachelor of Business or Business Administration, or Economics and Finance. Yeah, so Alison's in a Bachelor of Business. You might be coming through the TAFE and doing the diploma, you might be coming through the college and doing the diploma into the degree. Many different ways that we would see you, which is really exciting. So you'll notice that when you log in on Souls, and I can't do that bit, not as a student, but you know where that is, and Anne showed you that login on that screenshot with the red box on the left, and you log into Souls. One of the options that comes up there is your learning platform. And your learning platform, or the learning platform that we use at UOW, is Moodle. I don't know if you guys would have used Moodle in high school. You might have used Blackboard or another type of e-learning type of platform where the content is stored, and the discussion forums, and it's basically the way, the medium that we use to stay in touch with you. Other than when we're meeting with you, and other than email. So you've got kind of Souls Mail, and then you've got Moodle. And when you log into your Moodle site here, you'll notice that you have your Career Smart, your Start Smart, your Consent Matters. These, if you haven't done them yet, then just have a look at those, look at when they're due. Some of them, your exam marks won't be released until you have completed them. So yeah, just hop in there and do those before you're, have lots of assignments due and your whole world implodes with all of the craziness of what's going on in your first session. So I would definitely look at getting those done. You'll also see down the right here, there's all this stuff come up. Now this has only come up because I was fortunate enough to be added to all our first year subjects Moodle sites. So at the moment, you'll notice that I am pretending to be a student in business communications, accounting for decision making, marketing principles, economics essentials for business. So they're just a few that I'm looking at. And what comes up kind of down the right here is things that are due, assessments that are due at that time. Now you may not use that at all. Anne talked about time management, so really up to you in terms of how you're going to plan and how is it that you want to track what's due and when. Because as Anne mentioned, or as a coordinator, as a subject coordinator, it's really important that I, via the subject outline and via policy, you have to have an informed piece of assessment back by week 4 for each of your subjects. So because of that reason, that means you're definitely going to have an accessible item in every one of your subjects by week 4. So, and whilst we look at a session and we think we've got 13 weeks, and we think 13 weeks is such a long period of time. I don't know if Kassan agrees with me, but it kind of goes like that when you're here. And I think especially too with university, it's kind of, it's not a 9 to 3 kind of here all day. You're coming and you're going to the library, or you're joining up with your society and your club, or you're working on a group piece over here. And so the days just tend to be filled with understanding your lecture content, and then understanding what you need to do for your tutorial, and then what you need to do for your assessments. So some type of beautiful calendar plan, post-it notes, however you feel you like to work would be great, just to keep a bit of an eye on it. Now these Moodle sites down here, I can click on them and basically if I star them, that just means they'll go into my favorites. And I only do that because if you're a first year student at the moment, you'll notice that you've only got the 4 Moodle sites up there, but your Moodle sites do tend to stay for a little while. And so gradually, you know, like second session, you'll then have 8. And so sometimes you just got to page through and it just makes it nice and clean for you. Let me just hop into Mark 101, something like marketing principles. Now I am just going to move this box out of the way. So Sam, I just noticed that you popped that. I am just going to switch my role to a student so that I look like you. Otherwise you see all the hidden stuff that the coordinator hides, mainly just to not overwhelm you. So we release certain things at certain times. So let's have a look. Sam's question was about the videos in 101. I've noticed a few students commenting on that just late this afternoon actually, so we will have a look at that. But as you come in here, you'll notice that down the right hand side, most of the staff now have, you know, who's teaching this particular subject, and they'll have their email there. So this is your lovely Mercedes, your lovely subject coordinator for Mark 101. And then you'll come down and see, you know, you're the amazing Anna, and it'll go down through the staff that are in Mark 101. And obviously in your tutorials, which haven't started this week, so as of next week, these are the people that are going to be in that tutorial with you. And this is kind of this space that you live. So obviously if Mercedes wants to talk to you, I'm in the announcements here. That's where she'll have a chat to you. This announcements is also linked to your email, so you should get a notification of any announcements, but I would probably come in here and just check announcements, especially given the crazy weather at the moment, and just see what's going on. And then also really popular is our student forum. And the subject coordinator will use this in many different ways. They might upload, you know, an article that came out today. What do you think about the floods? What should we do about dam controls? This is a place where we're going to start really engaging in critical discussion. And that'll be really different to high school as well. We really want you to start to begin to, you know, engage in lots of critical thinking. What's your thought? You know, what do you think about this issue? And many other students with many different values and cultures and different ways of living will have their opinion as well. And it's about engaging in all those different values and different thoughts about the world and different lenses through which we're going to see it. So these forums are a great way just to get to know your cohort and see different views on particular issues. So you'll notice here, and I noticed Sam's, there's a couple of thoughts about not opening the videos. And so this is where people, are talking to one another here. It's a great place just to say hello. Let me just come back here and then I'll just run you through this and we'll come back to your questions. Okay, now down here, and I'll go into a different subject as well so you can see how they're formatted differently per subject. Most lecturers today will have this type of format. So you'll have where to go for student support. Mercedes has got this is where you'll have your live lectures. What else has she got here? Frequently asked questions. This is where she has your assessment tasks. This little symbol here, this is your Moodle, what we call an ebook. And so you're going to hop in here and Mercedes has created a little ebook to tell you all about assessment 1. And so you can have a look at that. What else has she got here? Oh, and then something like this is our little turn it in symbol here. You guys might have used some type of plagiarism checker or an integrity checker of your work in high school, but at UOW we use turn it in, and basically through that button there you will be able to submit your assignment, but also check your assignment in terms of making sure that you've acknowledged the correct sources and you've referenced correctly, and just a really good habit to get into. And Anne will be running a referencing session, so student support session. In the future, we'll bring up those dates towards the end of this session. In the Faculty of Business and Law, we use Harvard referencing style. If you're in law, help me out, Anne, they will use
ALCS.
a
I think it's ALCS or ACLS, one of the two.
Get that right. They use a different style of referencing, and that's just really important to note, especially if you're in a double degree. Then you're kind of swapping between the two, and yeah, so just to be on top of that. So you got your assessment area, and then you'll have your lecture recording. So Mercedes has got her week 1 live lecture up at the moment. And that she must be running a link and must be saying hello to you online live. I'll show you, we'll hop into another session in a minute where it's pre-recorded. And if you go down, let me just close this one. If we come down, let's say week 4 is on consumer buyer and behaviour. And so notice how there's an ebook here. And I'm going to click in here, and this is actually the lecture for week 4. So all these lectures have been pre-recorded, and so this one's from Jenny Algie, who's that's her specialist area is consumer buyer. And so the interesting thing about this, and you'll notice in these ebooks, there's videos, there'll be quizzes, there'll be place links they want you to go out, there'll be tasks they want you to do. Each ebook is really interesting, should take you about the same time as it would have to attend a live lecture. And so I think that's really important to think about, because you want to give yourself that couple of hours to work through that ebook. And I think what's interesting here is, let's say with Mercedes she's pretty much opened up all sorry, let me just close this one. You've pretty much got all your 13 weeks of lectures, your 12, 10, 11 weeks of lectures there, right? Ready to go. And sometimes you can think, oh, that's a little bit overwhelming because it's all kind of there. How am I going to manage? When do I do what? And so that's when it's really important that we come back up, if I can, go to subject information. That's really important that you come back to your subject outline. So I'm going to open that up. Is that open there, Anne? Can you just, yep. So if you hop in here, and what we want to do is go down to our, read all this lovely information, but then basically what we want to do is come down to this topics covered, and we want to really concentrate on this right-hand column here where it's got readings. It talks about watch the videos within the Moodle book for week 2. Okay, so you're going, okay, it's week 1. This is what Mercedes wants me to do. It's coming up to week 2. This is what Mercedes wants me to do. So just have a look at that and be mindful of, because there's lots of information here, right? And just remember that you've got these 4 times for each subject. So especially when the lectures are pre-recorded, you really need to be really strict with your timetable. I would probably set a time for when's my Mark 101 lecture going to happen. Let me put that in my weekly schedule. Let me make sure that it's before my tutorial. Let me make sure I've got enough time to do the ebook, read the reading in the chapter, let's say it's week 3 here, complete the multiple test, multiple choice test. There's a few things that Mercedes wants you to do in order to prep to get to your tutorial. So see if I can get back to my Moodle site here. Am I back on Moodle, Anne? Yep. Excellent. Okay. Now, you guys can help me. Was that video in the video that wasn't playing? Can you help me in the chat and just tell me where it was? Wouldn't be, it's not this one. Is it in one of the ebooks? Sam, can you maybe unmute or put it in the chat? Is it in the chat, Anne? I just don't have the chat open, sorry.
From the comment section, it says I can't open most of the videos in Mark 101 week 1.
Week 1. Important subject information. How to get through this subject. Is it in there? That's the outline. No, I don't think it's there. No, that's just about it.
Sam's just come back, so we'll see if he can tell us what video wasn't working.
If you can just tell me where that video is, Sam, then I can. It probably won't play for me either, but then I can just ask Mercedes directly and know where the issue is.
Hello?
Hi, Sam.
Can you scroll down a little bit?
Yep.
There's a week 1. Just scroll down more, please.
Let me just close this one. This one?
Yeah, I think this is the one. And what is marketing? You click in, and from 1.2, I'm having trouble opening the video.
No worries. Let's have a look.
I think 80% of the videos I can't watch them. Is it because I'm in China? Because I have already mailed my tutors, like Miss Mercedes, and she tells me she sent me some YouTube links, and because I'm in China, I can't even use the YouTube.
Okay.
So
Sam, are you on our virtual private network? Have you had that set up for you?
no, not yet.
Okay. All right, we can get that set up for you. For our students studying from overseas, we have UOW has a virtual private network. We have one for Australia and the rest of the world, and we have a special one for China. So what we can do, Sam, if you email through to us, we can get someone to follow through and get you set up on that, and that will help. But that would be the reason you're having trouble.
So Anne, if you just pop my email in the chat, and then Sam, if you could email me, and then I can follow that up for you. Is that okay?
Okay, thank you.
That would be the big problem there. Okay, so let's just hop into something. What any other subject that anyone's got that they want to have, or has anyone got any questions about Moodle? That's just my daughter singing in the background, which is excellent. That's okay. Let me go into Econ 100. Okay, so again, see, it's very similar, but I would definitely suggest going into your 4 subjects and having a look around. They'll all be a little bit different. The coordinator, some will do week 1, week 2, week 3. Some might have a folder for lectures, a folder for tutorials, a folder for consultation. There's a consultation meeting link. So we've got our assessments here. And this particular EMEA has got week 1. So they've only put week 1 up. And so what this coordinator will do is release them as the weeks come. And sometimes that's also it would help my anxiety a little bit, so they're not all there. And other students really love to have everything so that they can move forward through at their own pace. So I think the thing about university is really starting to understand how you learn, and how you're going to move through this content and what you're going to take out of it as you move through the different sessions. But once you get used to Moodle, it's a bit like it's just your friend. It's where you'll find your assignments. It's where you're going to upload your assignments. Yeah, it's that main contact point with your coordinator, unless you're coming to see them during consultation. So, any questions or anything I haven't covered there, Anne?
Not that only probably the bits at the top, Belle, is the links at the top through to like my library.
Have a look at that.
It's at the top of the page in the banner.
Oh, yeah. Again, a lot of the subjects will have e-reading lists, which you might see a reading list in your subject outline. And then when you hop in there, it'll link you through to a number of e-readings. And those e-readings would have been set up by a coordinator, and sometimes there's not a textbook allocated. You might find when you get to second and third year that it's not textbooks. It's more e-readings. But in here, you're going to hop up to your library and hop into your databases, and they'll have help sites there for referencing and citing and citations. And I know Anne will go through those topics with you in one of those support sessions, but I would definitely take one of the library courses and get them just to help you familiarise yourself. I don't know, Kassan, what you think about that, just to familiarise yourself with how to search the databases and finding articles. Did you have something to say on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think that attending a library session or speaking to a librarian is really helpful, because I think that that's another thing that is a bit different to school. It's different to just going on the internet and Google searching something to get information. It's a little bit more in depth than that. So yeah, I would recommend using it a lot.
Excellent. And then obviously your IT support. If you want to request, if you need help, downloading the Office suite as a university student, or your Zoom license, or yeah, just any problems that you're having there. And again, a lot of the support services that Anne talked about, you can easily get it up on there. That's about it for me. Has anyone got, let me just stop, see what's happening in the chat, or any other questions that we can help you with this evening?
Okay, you can keep posting questions in the chat. It's lovely to see the interaction. So people helping people with questions and answers, which is brilliant. That's one of the way we learn, and we talked about asking questions. It's so important.
I think too, Anne, I was going to say, just watching the conversation, Alison, we could have sometimes in classroom, we could have up to 14 different cultures in the one room, and that's so different to school. I think, when you're at school, you're kind of with the same demographics sometimes in a way, and you're with that same demographic for, could sometimes 12 years. And it's just the rich conversation and just how much you learn about other cultures in a tutorial. Yeah, it's just as a tutor, listening to those conversations. Yeah, it's just mind blowing, and we learn as much from you guys as you will from us, which is really exciting.
Okay, well, we've only got a couple of more.
Yeah, so I think Alison's got other Career Smart things on Moodle mandatory.
Okay,
Yeah.
Great question. The answer is actually yes. They're not as big or as scary as they seem, as is the Start Smart, and the Start Smart unit is around academic integrity. But to encourage you, I put in inverted commas, to actually complete those activities. If you don't complete them within your first year, it will actually block your grades. You won't be able to see your final grades. So it's one of those things that if you start it, particularly it's good to get out of the way at this time of the session before a lot of the assessment tasks hit. You can work your way through those activities. So the Start Smart and Career Smart are compulsory units, but it's good to just knock them out of the way. They don't take too long to do. There some information with some quiz bits on it. I know the Start Smart one because I was involved in the setup of that. So yes, the answer is yes, they are compulsory, but easy to get to. I'm just letting you know about our next session. So you found today's session. We've got a session tomorrow night, again live, and it will be recorded. But it's Belinda's on there as well. But it's also got our academic program directors for the business programs. Chat about internship opportunities as part of the business degree, but also discussing the business degree itself. We talk about these terms about majors and minors and things, and people don't know what they mean. So it's an opportunity to work through some of those terms and understand what they mean for you and your degree. And then following that, so for next week, we've got a session on student opportunities and support. Study abroad, how you can do either physical or online interactions overseas. The career services is available at UAW. I'm going to talk a bit about academic integrity, and that's about personal and professional integrity that not only applies to the way we study and we perform our work, but also what we take into society and life. I'm going to talk about tackling different types of assessments, and that's where trying to give a frame of how the different assessment tasks work, or some of the different assessment tasks work, but also too how to go about it when you have to write an assessment and you have a blank piece of paper and you're going, it's a little bit scary and where do I start? So I'll give you some tips and tricks on that. And talking about referencing, so I'll talk about Harvard and also the law referencing, but we've got a referencing tool that will make referencing a bit easier. So I'll talk about searches and that. With week 5, I'm going to talk about assessment and feedback. So what do I do when I've got my grades back or I've got some comments? What does critical analysis mean when a lecturer says, can you be more critical or put more references with that? How do I actually approach those things? So by that time, you should have had feedback on one assignment or it's been talked through. So we can talk through what that actually means. And then we've scheduled a session for the subjects that have got exams, how you can go about preparing for an exam, what's a good way to study, getting your information together. Now, this is the first year we've run these types of programs or this type of program. We're happy for your suggestions of other topics you would like covered, because we're running these from a general perspective, like a how to survive university perspective. So we're not running back to subject coordinators and saying, well, so-and-so asked this question or anything like that. We're trying to give you the things that will make your study successful and to improve your university experience. So we're really welcome and open to feedback. It's really important to keep connected to the faculty. So we've got our Facebook page, we've got our LinkedIn page, and there's also a students' Instagram page. I noticed Sam put in the chat about the one of the equivalents in China. We're not on there yet, but who knows what other platforms we'll be on, but that's where we are connected to the faculty. But happy for any more questions if there's anything you would like to ask that we haven't covered already. So has anybody got any questions? I'll stop screen sharing. Stop that so you can see us.
Sam's just asking about the recordings.
Yep. Oh, Bailey, where are the recording for these meetings be available? So there is, Kelly, the UOW Faculty of Business and Law events page.
Yeah, we'll have link up there, so they'll go up on our UOW YouTube, just unlisted, and then we'll put the link where you found this link to go to the meeting. Just give us a couple of days just to edit and just edit all our conversations out and to make sure they're de-identified for you. And yeah, then we'll have them up.
And we'll come up, we'll see how we can, if we get the VPN set up, that should help you, Sam, and we can make arrangements so that you can access that information. But we've tried to design this session so that if you need to go back and look at a particular piece, that you can go back and revisit it. And that's what we will be doing with all the video sessions or the live sessions that we're doing at the moment. So are there any other questions anybody would like to ask? No? It's great to see that you've been asking questions coming through. It's great. And the thing is, if you come up with a question after this, we're still happy to take your questions. You can come through to the faculty. I mean, my email address is on the faculty. Just, I give it to you. But that's mine. So you can ask questions, and if I can't answer it, I'd get someone else to answer it for you. But we also are very interested in what sort of things you would like covered. So just coming up to an hour, which is great. We allowed time for more questions, but we're very happy that you've joined us. It's been wonderful having you here, and even just the questions in the chat help us refine what sort of information people would really like to know about, or what isn't clear in other presentations or sessions that we've run. So if there aren't any more questions, as I said, if you walk away and you suddenly think of a question, shoot it through to us and we can look after it for you. But other than that, thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully we might get to see you on campus at some stage. So, and thanks, Belinda, and particular thanks to Kassan for joining us on this session today. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you later.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.